In a moment, we'll be live on YouTube. Yes, it's live streamed.
Sure. I think now we can admit everyone, Ajay. Yeah.
Okay.
About Archana?
Yeah, she's joining. Yeah. I just spoke with her.
There's one more Sandhya who's joined.
Yeah, that's Archana case.
So let her come in and then we'll change her name and then
Now we can admit.
yeah, let's just change Archana's name. I guess Archana, you have just joined, right?
Hello, Archana. Yeah.
Hi, I've just joined.
Yeah, that's Archana case.
So let her come in and then we change her name. Then yeah, let's just change Archana's name. I guess Archana, you have just joined, right?
Hello, Archana. Yeah.
Hi, I've just joined.
I think we can begin.
Yep. All good.
Hemant?
Yes, Sandeep.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think there are people still joining.
Hemant, if you can go a little bit backside, it'll look nice. Yeah.
Good morning to all of you.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Everybody has joined, or are anybody in the waiting room?
Hemant, they've just started
Yeah.
letting people in.
So I keep admitting Hemant. I think we can get started. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of BAF Parihara. This is a new initiative. This is a new initiative by BAF under the new governing council structure where we have 3 distinct teams, and one of the team is Parihara team. And in this team, we are striving to bring all the possible solutions to the problems faced by our members. And the first Parihara episode is in respect of how to mitigate risk faced by MC members. I thank our General Secretary Vishnu, our President Vikram, and our Vice President Mr. Malya. They have been instrumental in organizing this program. The moderator for our first episode is Mrs. Sandhya Bhatt. She is the secretary of Koramangala cluster and also a citizen activist for Citizen Matters. Welcome, Sandhya. Over to you.
Sorry, I need to unmute you, Sandhya. Just a moment. Can you unmute now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good morning. Thank you, Hemant. Good morning, everyone. Living in a community setting, apart from numerous benefits, also comes with its own challenges, particularly in managing the risks that can arise from various sources, such as property damage, legal liabilities, or disputes among residents. To discuss this, today we have Archana KS, who has over 18 years of experience in MNCs in the field of litigation. She has been a lead counsel in a wide range of disputes for both domestic and international clients. Mr. Dinesh Shenvi, Vice President, Prudent Insurance Brokers, and a former AVP of Tata AIG, heading Accident and Health. He has over 15 years of experience into risk management and is now consulting mid to small corporates, including startups. Mr. Mahadeva Murthy, Real Estate Health Safety Environment Specialist at Shell Business Operations, a CWC member of Fire Safety Association of India, Bangalore chapter, and a part of BAF Kengeri cluster. Mr. Hemant Pai, a chartered accountant by profession and a BAF Governing Council member. The first steps in effective risk management is to identify and understand the potential risks faced by the community. I call upon Mr. Mahadeva Murthy who will walk us through electrical and fire safety. Mr. Mahadeva Murthy.
Yeah, thank you, Sandhya. Hope I'm audible to all of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vishnu, will you be straight up? Can you open the PPT?
Yeah, can you please share the PPT?
Yeah.
Okay. In the meantime, good morning, everyone. And myself, Mahadev, so working as Health Safety Environment Specialist as briefed by Sandhya Bhatt. So today it's a very interesting topic because can we imagine the life without electricity? Definitely not, right? It is the very basic thing that we require on day-to-day life. So what is electricity? So in a general thing, like movement of electrons between 2 points, that is, or else the flow of charge carried by free-flowing electron is called electricity. So that's a simple definition of electricity. Okay, so how can we make it safer, and what are the things that can go wrong if we don't use it wisely? So are you sharing the screen now?
One moment.
Okay. In the meantime, let me just touch upon like so we are in a era wherein we want everything in tip of our hand. Like once we touch our switches, so everything should go automatically. So everything should function in the way we want. So that is the intention why we chose to live in a society where we have everything is convenient to us. But what happens if it turns to be an unsafe thing? Okay, so many incidents, accidents happen because of the faulty equipments or because of the unsafe behavior. So let me touch upon, I'll not deep dive more into electrical safety, but I just wanted to make you understand and think that what are the things as a management committee member, what are the basic things I should know, even if I'm not an electrical engineer or even if I'm not from a technical background. So can you move to the next slide? Okay, so I'm going to cover electrical safety at apartments, transformer maintenance, diesel generator maintenance, swimming pool safety, and fire safety at apartments. So these are the things I'm going to touch upon in another 15 to 20 minutes. So when we talk about electrical safety, so as I said that we use a lot of various electrical systems such as lifts, common areas, common area lighting, water pumps, everything run with the use of electricity. So we live in a society where individual will experience the luxury, and also we need to be cautious about the electrical hazards and what are the things which can go wrong, which can potentially lead us to a thing because of the faulty electrical equipments or not maintaining on time on regular basis. Go to the next slide. Yeah. So basic important things, what are the things that we need to ensure is like safe earthing system. So this is one of the basic things that we need to do. What is earthing? So earthing is a process in which the instantaneous discharge of the electrical energy takes place. Okay, so traveling from directly to the charges directly to the earth. So this is connected to the earth so that it is nothing but to stop leakage of faulty current. So if there is any leakage in the current, so to stop that, we need to connect to the earthing system. So this is mandatory thing that each and every real estate developer, even for our home. So this is very much required. There are various types of earthing, like pipe earthing, rod earthing, strip earthing through water pipe, earthing with earth electrode, chemical earthing. So best thing is pipe earthing for the apartments. What I can suggest is that is recommended, and the purpose of earthing is to protect from an electric shock. So that is the reason why I said that ensure safe earthing is required. So how do we ensure that safe earthing is there or not? So periodical audits, inspections, so regular maintenance. So all this, you would have noticed many earth pits in your apartments, right? When was the last time it was inspected? It was checked. So how do you ensure that it is proper, or it is been checked, it has been recharged? So all those things. So we should have a like what I would suggest is to have an electrical team from the residents, so that on a monthly basis, okay, on a quarterly basis, we just go and check during our free time. We have a checklist in place, and we take expert opinion over the electrical safety engineers in our apartment, so that they will help in ensuring the safe earthing system in our apartments. Second thing is like ensure safe and reliable electrical systems. Okay, so we have electrical panels. So apartments are like more than 5 years, 10 years old, 15 years old. So we never bothered to change or upgrade the electrical equipments what we are using. So what it cost? Because of the cost issues, or because of, again, we have to invest on capital expenses. So we don't bother to change it. So what may go wrong is like if you're not changing it regularly, upgrading it, so that may lead to a faulty equipment, and outdated panels will create tripping hazard. Like it will not trip properly, it will create a fire hazard. So that's a big incident, and that may lead to a lot of electrical safety incidents. So going on to the third one is proper space around our equipment. So main thing is air circulation is required around our electrical equipments what we use in our apartments. So if we don't have a proper air circulations and working of electrical equipments in a closed cabinets where we don't have proper ventilation, so that will lead to a fire hazard. Basically storing of flammable equipments. Why we ensure that DG should be in an open area? Because diesel generator is such a kind of an equipment where there's a flammable object, flammable thing is being used, like diesel, and that storage of these things to be checked, and it is to be only authorized people should enter that particular area, and it should be restricted with the warning signs, signals, all those things to be ensured. The fourth one is like safety from fire hazards. So fire. So how does a fire occur? So fire will not occur immediately. It requires three things: heat, oxygen, and fuel. Okay, so to ensure that the equipment is free from fire hazards, so we need to ensure there is no overload for the equipment, and the fuses or circuit breakers what we use is safe, and it will function the way it's supposed to function. Okay, so what recommended is to do an electrical safety audit once in a year, minimum once in a year for an apartment, whatever the size it may be, but it requires an audit, so that audit, from whatever the findings from the audit, we can take it as a recommendation and take actions related to those findings. And the other one is equipment maintenance. As I said, like maintenance is required for every equipment. So without maintaining it with a proper checklist and not ensuring on a day-to-day basis or monthly basis, so we'll be paying more cost for that. Go to the next slide. Yeah. So have you heard about lockout and tagout systems? So lockout and tagout LOTO system is a procedure where it is used in industrial industries to avoid any electrical incidents, because of like if the work is happening and people will go and switch on the motor or a switch. To avoid such things, we need to have a practice of safe LOTO system in our apartments. Apartment is also a kind of an industry or operations where we run on day-to-day basis. Like most of the electrical usage are in common areas inside apartments. Okay, and this income or distribution panel, usage points, all those things. So electrical isolation is very much required. So electricity is such a kind of thing which is not visible to a eye. So we don't know what is happening. So to ensure that, we have to have a proper electrical safety system, process, procedures. So proper earthing is required, proper grounding is required for the equipments, and if there is any circuit interruption is required. So definitely we should have proper equipments. So proper safe practices So what I would suggest is, if there is any electrical work is happening in the apartment, let us implement a work permit system. That is called electrical safety work permit system. There's a checklist, like before, if any one of our team member wants to do some maintenance of activity, so let one of our person or electrical safety expert can issue a work permit. So that acts as a barrier, like kind of a checklist that ensures that everything is safe. Like the proper PPs are used, personal protective equipments are used, the electrical work is done by authorized person, and there's a barricade, and there's a signage, and people know what is happening there. Lockout tagout system is followed. So all these process basic things, if you implement, definitely we can avoid incidents. The next slide, Vishnu. So what's wrong here? Can you identify? So you can see the panel room, we treat it as a storage room. So is it right? And in the lift, so if there is any closure box is open, kept open, so there are chances of misusing it, and there are chances of electrical accidents or incidents. Okay, panel room should be under lock and key arrangements, and it should be, if there are any open panels, so it should be closed properly, and safety tools like circuits, extension cords, if they're using, so you just check the condition of the equipments, and the open doors, proper personal protective equipment which require for electrical safety work, and if there are any power lines, so all those things need to be checked. So proper wiring, earthing, electrical workers should be competent enough. So if they require any trainings to be given, so please ensure that they get trained. So only competent people are allowed to work in an apartments, electrical works. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah. So some of the important things that we ensure during the electrical safety audit is thermography. So thermography, why it is done? So thermography is done to capture the temperature. So to avoid if there is any variations in the overloading of the equipment. So usually electrical incidents happen because of overloading, short circuit. So these are the two important things. So how to ensure that it is not overloaded? So thermography to check the temperature, and overheating of the components and connections. So you'll get to know through thermography. Thermography to be conducted, so you can appoint any agency. What I would suggest is investing on safety is not a dead investment. It is a useful investment that for the safety of our people, it will it will directly or indirectly promotes the production and safety and well-being of the people. And faulty transformers, switch gears, so anything if you find out of the electrical safety audit, it has to be actioned immediately. So earthing pit testing, so as I covered in the previous slide, and power quality analysis to be checked if there is any variation in the voltage, temperature, all those things. So this is about electrical safety, and some of the like across apartments, the various issues are outdated and inadequately protected wiring, and overloaded circuits, faulty transformers, ineffective lighting systems in common areas, improper earthing, so voltage fluctuations. So upgrading outdated wiring, it's not been upgraded, and load rebalancing is not done. Replacing faulty transformers is not done. Retrofit has not been done. So these are the major findings in an apartment where we find that we are compromising on electrical safety. So we will have a checklist. So you'll definitely get a checklist in a Google, or you can contact your vendor so that they'll be having a checklist. Ask the vendor to come and do the maintenance on quarterly basis so that it will avoid these kind of issues. If there is any urgency required, so definitely we can get it replaced and ensure that the safety is there in our apartment premises. Next. Okay, coming to the transformer safety. So transformer is kind of a equipment wherein it will transform the electrical energy from one alternating current circuit to one or more other circuits. So whether increasing or reducing the voltage. So that is the purpose of transformer. So transformer to be handled or maintained by competent personnel, and unsafe equipment and electrical accidents will happen if we don't maintain it properly. If there is any leakage of oil or unsafe environment around it, because of the flammable objects like the dried leaves or something like that, which can cause electrical and fire safety incidents. And the location of the transformer should be such a way that it should be in an open area and it should not be used for any other purpose. Okay, and it should be under covered, and it should be a authorized, unauthorized section, so that only authorized people should enter that particular premises. And the structure and mechanical, whenever the builder handovers, whenever we are taking over from the builder, we should check all these things: the stability of the transformer, the foundation, the condition, the quality, everything. So we should have a transformer maintenance checklist. It will be available, and regular checks and maintenance of the transformer is very much required. So how often we check the transformer conditions? So we just go whenever it is under repair. It's not like that. It should have a frequency, like every year we should have a transformer oil check, how it is functioning. So vendor can come and check and give the inputs. Go to the next slide. Okay, so coming to the diesel generator. So many of the apartments I see, like fueling is done manually by filling it to the cans and then filling it to the DG. So that is not recommended. So we have vehicles, like if you give a call to a fueling vehicle, so they will come and do it in a safer way. Maybe on a cost side, it is not much high, so but it's safe and it is the best way to do. So provide employees with hearing protection over working in the DG systems, and take proper weather precautions, give enough space around the unit, same like DG, how we manage it, and operate it properly. So regular maintenance checking is required on a day-to-day basis, how it is maintained in industries. Okay, so preventive maintenance is the key to ensure that DG is maintained safely. Okay, coming back, I'll not go into the incident which happened recently, but what are the things or electrical safety connections that need to be ensured in a swimming pool safety? Basically, lightings inside the swimming pool. So we have to ensure, because water is the medium where the electricity can pass through easily. So we need to regularly check the condition of the wire, cable connections are properly done in a especially in an area where the swimming pool electrical connections are there. Apart from that, general things that we need to ensure is we should ensure that the children are unsupervised in the pool area. Do not leave unsupervised children in the pool area. So on swimming during the weather conditions, especially during the monsoon, thunderstorm seasons. So we should avoid allowing people to the swimming pool area because of the thunderstorms. It can cause an hazard to swimmers. Okay, electrocution can happen, and the fixed pool timing should be there, and there should be a life safety available around the swimming pool area, and there should be mandatory instructions. The 12 years and above of age should be supervised. All kids below 12 years to be supervised in the swimming pool area, and we should have a lifeguarding equipment. Definitely, I think we have all these guidelines in our apartments, but related to the electrical safety, related to the security, so all these things need to be managed and supervised. So the camera availability, CCTV availability in that particular area, and life-saving equipments, keep the first aid equipment, emergency contact numbers, life-saving equipment near the swimming pool area to avoid any untoward incidents. Okay. So coming to the last part on the fire. So as I said, fire will occur because of the three things. So fire triangle, we call it as, like, one is availability of fuel, oxygen, which is in the atmosphere, and on the ignition source. Okay, when these three combine, so it leads to fire. So what we need to do, we need to avoid these three things to be combined. Okay, so if there is any combustible material stored in an electrical equipments, so we should not store. It's not a storage area. So there should be a place for everything, and everything should be in its place. Okay, coming to the class of fires, there are 5 types of fires: class A, B, C, D, E. So please ensure that availability of fire extinguishers in the area, at least minimum 75 meters, from the distance of 75 meters from one fire extinguisher to the other fire extinguishers. And please have a once in 6 months, please train your residents, form a team of emergency response team in your apartments, and train them on regular basis. Like they should know how to use this fire extinguisher in case if there is any emergency. So upgrading, and many apartments don't bother to refill the fire extinguishers. So checking of expiry date and upgrading it on time, and uh, making it safe, and ensuring that it is in use. So in case of emergency, so only when any incidents happen, we remember all these things. But or else, whenever there's a fire NOC required, so we remember all those things. As I talk about fire NOC in Karnataka, fire NOC is valid for 5 years. Once in 5 years, for industries it is for 3 years. So after 5 years, definitely we should go for a renewal. Okay, so that ensures that we are complying not only from the compliance point of view, but from the safety point of view. It is always required. The MC should act immediately. It should not compromise on all these things. So coming to the fire prevention, so how often we do conduct a fire drills in our apartments? So whatever may be the size. The size of the apartment may be a G+4 or a 20 floor or a 30th floor. So we should have an emergency response team, and you can call any agency who is expert in conducting the fire drills. So fire drills is mandatory. Like we should keep the exit areas. So people don't know there are staircases in many of the apartments. The staircases are used as storing areas or obstructions. So in case if there is a breakdown of the lift, then only they'll remember the stairs. Okay, so in case of emergency, we need to ensure that the all staircases are obstruction free, and we should practice, and we should have a proper safe assembly area with a signage so that people come and assemble in case of any fire emergency. And the detectors like smoke detectors, fire alarm. So what are the safety critical equipments we have in our apartments, how it's functioning? So whether are we checking it on a regular basis, or those are working effectively? So all these things need to be checked to prevent, and after if there is any fire incident, so that will help us in evacuating safely. Okay. So go to the next slide. Some of the other prevention techniques are like storage of flammable substances such as diesel, gasoline, all those things to be in a proper place. And these are the common behavioral things. And no dangerous goods shall be stored within the premises. The common or public corridor should be maintained free of obstructions. And the entire premises should be in a neat and clean conditions. And ensure that appliances have adequate air circulations. And as I said, that fire mock drills should be conducted minimum once in 6 months to create awareness, and to have a fire safety team in each block or a floor, so that they are aware to do what they need to do in case of there is a real fire emergency. So yesterday also there was a fire incident in one of the areas in Bangalore. So why it is being repeated? Are we compromising on all these things? Definitely, we should take it very seriously and ensure that the things are in place to avoid these kind of untoward incidents. So I'll stop here. Are we taking questions now?
Thank you, Mahadeva Murthy. There were some very good learnings here. You emphasized on periodic audit. Is there a checklist template you could probably share?
Yeah, I can share the checklist related to DG, transformer, and electrical panels checklist, and a general checklist what we need to be used on a monthly basis to ensure we are complying with the fire safety requirements.
Yeah, that would be lovely. Thank you. Now, can these be done in-house, or do you need somebody who's authorized? So who is the authorized personnel to work on these? Especially, say, I'm assuming electrical is separate and fire is separate. So you have different agencies, or how does it work?
Yeah, we have a lot of authorized agencies to conduct a fire safety audit and electrical safety audit. But internally, if our apartments have any electrical safety experts, so we can do it in-house audit. So that is like, it's not a certified audit, but to ensure that we are complying and we are safe, we can do it on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis. but minimum once in a year, if you get it done from an expert, from an authorized agency for electrical safety audit and fire safety audit, that is recommended.
Okay. These are what kind of certified personnel we are talking about? Are they contractors
it is
or?
authorized, it is authorized by government, wherein they are authorized to conduct an audit on electrical safety and fire safety, and they follow the process of like OSHA's requirements and electrical safety requirements, and they certify that okay, so they are complying. If there are any observations, they will ask us to close those observations and ensure the things are in place.
Okay.
So that is how we conduct in our corporate offices, and also in industries. They do these audits from the external agencies.
Okay. Is there a list of say what to look for in a authorized certified personnel? I mean, what certifications are required before hiring? Just to do our due diligences.
Yeah, they should be registered and they should be an authorized. So I can share some of the authorized agencies list so that
Sure. That will really be helpful. Thank you, Mahadev. Most associations may have taken utmost care with running their societies, but as Mr. Mahadeva Murthy mentioned, unfortunately, accidents can happen anywhere. In instance, there were 2 fire casualties reported in an apartment in 2021. Again, yesterday there was one more incident which Mr. Murthy touched upon, and of course, even the swimming pool incident. So it's essential for us to know what steps to take if such incidents occur. So Archana, I come to you. Whenever there is an untoward incident, first reaction is panic. But what should be done? What are the first steps an association should take?
Hi, everybody. This is Archana. So, it is but natural that, everybody has a fear and panic. But the most important steps to be taken is, you'll be surprised, is to inform the police immediately. And immediate remedies such as, ambulances, medical support, etc., need to be informed so that, help is available immediately when such an incident occurs. Now, why I say that the police needs to be informed is there is no tampering with the evidences and the police gets first-hand information. Apart from that, I think emergency services needs to be displayed in a conspicuous place. And the gentleman before me very rightly said that an emergency response team, probably as a part of a subcommittee under the management committee, should be trained in order to deal with these kind of situations. And of course, the necessary steps needs to be taken as and when, the issues occur. And most importantly, it is not just restricted to what can be done when such a situation occurs. There is a lot of homework, which means prior to any such thing occurring, there is a lot of work that needs to be done as far as a management committee is concerned. So, so that's my first response to this.
Thanks, Archana. Okay, you do take the steps and still this happens. And is there, our associations are registered under various acts like KSRA, KOA, cooperative societies. Now, when an incident occurs, there is culpability, right? Does the statute under which the RWA is registered make a difference on the culpability of the incidents?
No. See, as far as culpability is concerned, none of the statutes have a penal provision. See, I'll tell you, KSRA has penal provision. It talks about offenses. There is a section 28 under Karnataka Societies Registration Act, but it is, restricted towards the offenses committed within the purview of that particular statute. It does not cover anything which is an untoward incident that happens towards the society or the human beings. All right. Secondly, KOA, in fact, completely lacks offenses. There is no section which talks about offenses at all. So the penal provision is completely missing as far as KO is concerned. And while all this is missing, the responsibility is pinned on the person who is managing and who is responsible, the team that is managing the entire association. Now, something that needs to be very importantly, put out there is they are not an office of profit. None of the MC members sitting out there are, making any profit. However, they're doing service. They not only do their regular jobs, but they also have a huge responsibility to conduct and ensure that the maintenance is taken care of appropriately. So, in the absence that there is any penal provision in any of the statutes, the Indian Penal Code will come into force, or any other law of the land. From July, we are not going to have Indian Penal Code. That is going to come into effect. So not really that these acts, will reduce or, affect the culpability of the board members.
Thank you. Now, one after this one, after these incidents, we have been getting these responses where managing committees want to outsource their entire operations. Now, whether outsourcing of all operations and not directly employing helps in mitigating risk to the MC members?
See, it will, the answer is yes and no. To a large extent, the risk is mitigated. However, can the MC be completely absolved of the responsibility? No, unfortunately not. However, when you outsource something to somebody, the onus definitely lies on the outsourced agency, because, like I said, the MC is not holding the office of profit. However, the MC and the entire association is paying to avail certain services. So these outsourced agencies are, having a profitable venture from where, this responsibility and liability arises for them. So to a large extent, yes, but these things need to be laid out in the contracts and the vendor contracts that the apartment associations have, which very categorically talk about what happens in the event that such an accident is to occur, number one. Number two, if these kind of incidents are to be addressed, if there is a complaint raised, what is the turnaround time? And is there an audit that is required, whether internal audit, external audit? What is under the statute if there is a compliance that needs to be monitored and then looked at, and then repeatedly keep servicing, and then AMC, all these things will need to be in place. See, the checking of the AMC, making sure there is an audit, making sure that the compliance is there, again, the onus falls on the management committee. However, you can directly hold the agency is responsible for the expertise that they bring in and for which the services are being paid for.
Thank you. Can having an indemnity clause help mitigate the risk? Say, passing the resolution in an AGM. There are associations which do that. Does it sort of indemnify them?
No, indemnification will be taken care of as far as the cost of litigation is concerned. Number one, cost of litigation. Who are the people who will be directly responsible? Some of the committees I have seen have roles and responsibilities spreadsheet, where they hold XYZ accountable as far as a particular aspect of the maintenance is concerned. Somebody is responsible for housekeeping, somebody is responsible for waste management, somebody is, so typically that also, helps in identifying who was ultimately responsible when a ticket was raised. And indemnification clause will do a due diligence as far as compensation to the victim is concerned. All right, who is to be blamed, or how will you help the victim? Because ultimately all of us are looking at how can we protect the family of the victim who has undergone an accident, which is number one. Number two, the indemnification will take care of how is the agency going to handle a situation and protect the board members who have outsourced this whole thing to them. So yes, to a large extent, indemnification clause will be helpful in contracts.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Sandhya, can I
We'll
interject?
take the question. Sorry, we'll take the questions later, please. You can post it in the chat. We'll take it. So, in case of a mishap due to the faults of the developer, when a handover happens, there are legacy issues. How do they hold the developer responsible? Or once he hands over, he's out of the picture. And
so the handover has to be documented, which is number one. when the handover is documented, obviously the lifts, for example, the fire safety, the approvals, and all those things come into play. The STP, the swimming pool, the way it is made, and your remedy after a couple of years, if it is identified that this is a developer issue and this is an issue because of the way a certain thing was constructed in the first place, will have to be taken up with the courts. That is the only remedy we have at this point in time.
Litigation is the only way.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Shenvi, I come to you. Apart from the legal aspects of handling incidents, let's look at risk strategy. What should the MC do to mitigate this risk? RWAs typically have asset insurance. Is that sufficient? Or should they look at specifically liability insurance for managing companies?
Thank you, Sandhya. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, panelists and fellow BAF members. Thank you for the opportunity. I think Mr. Murthy, I think, dwelt a very important topic on fire audit, fire safety, and criticality of managing risk, right? I think we had Archana also talk about how to kind of manage should an event happen, what should be the first response and who should be taking responsibility should an event happen. But the fact remains is that these events, whether it's a fire risk or any other risks associated with an accident, are going to be there for every society. And while you may have SOPs, you may have, you may conduct fire audits and do all of this. You will at some stage have an untoward incident happening. So whenever an untoward incident happens, there is a loss. And when you talk about a loss, you're also talking about compensation, or how do you make good the loss. So I think it's very important that people at the managing committee create what I call as a risk strategy. What is important is to understand what risks you are exposed to, and which are risks which can be transferred through an insurance policy. There are certain risks which is insurable, and there are policies which will be able to respond should there be a liability on the managing committee. And there are certain risks which may not get covered. Not every risk which you have will have a 100% risk transfer solution. But what is important is to understand what are the risks that you are retaining. And once you have a clarity in terms of various risks and how can you mitigate the risk, then comes an understanding on saying what are the policies that we should definitely have in place. I think most people have a fire insurance, and this is something I think protects your asset. And like Mr. Murthy touched, very well on having a fire audit in place. I would strongly recommend that every association conducts this fire audit. Many bylaws or any cooperative act makes it mandatory to have fire audit and structural audits in place. And if you have these fire audits and structural audits in place, then it can also help you in getting discounts on your fire insurance premium. But not in spite of having these structural audits and having this fire audits, if there is an event where an accident happens, the question is, how do you protect yourself? And like Mr. Murthy said, is the process that typically which is followed in commercial complexes, in industries, in terms of mitigating risk. I think similar process needs to be followed with the associations. While we know that this is a fiduciary and a non-profit kind of arrangement where nominated and selected members are responsible for the running of the society and the welfare of its members, the fact is they cannot wish away the responsibility that lies in should an event happen. And there is a product called Directors and Officers Liability. When you talk about directors and officers, you think that it is meant for corporates. No, it can be used by anybody, any association to protect their officers or anybody who is involved in a supervisory function, who is responsible for managing day-to-day affairs. You are taking decisions on various aspects, and you are prone whenever you're taking decision or at times not taking a decision. You're prone for any liability from the members, tenants, visitors. So the liability risk is a widespread risk, and India, unfortunately, till now was not as litigious, but I think it is evolving. Well, people are aware about their rights, and they are going to kind of demand for in case of a loss, a compensation. So what does when you look at if somebody makes a suit against the officers of the housing society, what are the things that will get covered under the policy? And like Archana, she mentioned that while there is a litigation is typically a process which goes through, there is a cost related to defense cost. I think the policy responds in case there is a litigation, and it will pay for the defense cost. So from the way corporates are doing to protect their directors, their officers against litigation, I think in a similar way, housing societies can look at protecting themselves and their office bearers by taking a D&O policy. So it's a policy which responds in case there is an allegation or in case there is a mismanagement, and it's a wide policy. But what it will do typically is only cover for defense cost. But if an event like a fire or any accident results in case of a bodily injury or a property damage, and if somebody and this bodily injury can result into disability or there are medical expenses related to that, will a D&O policy respond in that case? No, it will not respond. There is usually a standard exclusion under a D&O policy where bodily injury, property damage, any premises related risk, including risk related to malfunctioning of a lift, and there is an event because of lift, there is an accident, and if there is injury to someone, will a D&O policy respond? Yes, it may respond for for a compensation, for a loss of life, but it will not respond in case there is any disability or any expense related to hospitalization and things related to property damage. Like say, for example, if I'm in your premises, I'm a visitor, I parked my car, and if there is any damage to my car, can I ask for compensation? I think yes, and in situations like that, you will find that a different policy, a commercial general liability, which is also used in corporates a lot, will respond. So one, of course, other than the directors and officers liability insurance, you should also look at a commercial general liability. These are low-cost policies, but it also depends on what extensions you take, what sum insureds you take. Very important that there is a certain strategic framework in place in terms of defining appropriate sum insureds that you can take and what are the extensions you can take. The most common extensions that I would typically recommend most housing societies to have is something like a lift liability extension or a food and beverage liability extension. And you have a Holi coming around the corner, and societies will organize functions, food is arranged. And if at all there is an event where there is a food poisoning or because of the quality of food. If certain members and people get affected, can the management pay a compensation? Can there be and can an insurance policy respond in situations like that? So there are policies with these extensions available. So my advice would be to kind of work with a reputed broker who has deep expertise in liability, because the scope of liability is very wide. The policy wordings can be very complex, and also I'll urge urge the members to kind of understand what are the policy exclusions. Many a times you think that if you've taken a policy, you are well protected. It may not be completely true. There will always be few exclusions that you should be aware of. And you should also, in spite of taking the policy, I will urge everyone that while there's a risk transfer mechanism or a risk mitigation measure exists, you will have to, as members, take the responsibility and behave as if you are uninsured. Which means that should there be a loss happening, how would you respond in case of a loss? And create evidences in terms of photographs, having evidences in case of creating videos, so that it can support for a claim settlement. I think it's very important that whichever broker or a company or insurance company that you work with, you have access to the claims team who can actually guide you through the documentation required, and ensure that the claim gets processed effectively. For example, if there is a litigation, can the association approve the legal fees or expenses all by themselves? No, you will have to kind of take the insurer's approval and ensure that the legal fees which is required to be paid can actually get paid, and then you will get reimbursed by insurance companies. So there are a lot of these fine prints and procedural things that you should be aware of. But yes, there are these policies which are available. There is also something which, if you're looking at a cost-effective solution, many housing societies focus a lot on costs. While a commercial general liability, I still believe, is an extremely cost-effective solution because it gives you wider coverages and response in most scenarios. But the least that you can do is have a public liability insurance. It's a very low-cost product, but of course it has deductibles and it has certain restrictions. But if your cost is the focus, then maybe at least protect yourself by having at least the public liability policy. So these are some of the things that I thought I think the members should be aware of and should definitely have, other than having a fire insurance policy in place.
Thank you, Mr. Dinesh. And I know in companies you have group insurance like that. Is that a sort of consideration for RWAs?
Group insurances are typically for a medical. Yeah. It's a medical or it's a hospitalization related product. Wherein the employees get covered under a corporate policy where the sponsorer is the corporate, and it is in compliance with what is typically called as a group guidelines. So housing societies can also create, it's also a group because the group definition talks about a group which is having a monetary relationship. You are doing a maintenance contribution to the society. So there is a monetary relation, there is certain homogeneity. So if you are creating a group which is secular, and when I say secular, that means all members of the society are covered by default, and you are not encouraging what is typically called as moral hazard, wherein you allow for certain people to get covered and certain people not to be covered. And when it's a default thing, you will you will be able to have a group insurance for your members. Where societies will have certain members saying, I don't want to participate, and can you create a voluntary policies? Technically you can, but such policies I wouldn't recommend. One, it is not sustainable. Mostly those people who have health risk, they are the people who participate in this kind of programs. And typically these are annual programs, which means every year basis the claims, the premiums are set, are reset. And at times, people who have not made claims, they end up holding the baby for the people who have made claims. So it's very important that you have certain rules of enrollment and create a program which is sustainable. But yes, it's a benefit policy, and it's not a liability policy.
Thank you. Archana, apart from such incidents on a daily basis, RWAs have to deal with internal disputes. For example, making rules for conveniencing, banning pets from houses or using lifts, separate lift for domestic help, not allowing them to, the segregation of lifts, etc. So, how do you manage these conflicts? Is an MC allowed to do these?
See, MC is definitely allowed to frame their own rules and regulations, but there is a limitation. The concept that, certain fundamental rights which are given to all beings, whether it's human beings or animals and things like that. And there are several gazetted notifications which say that banning of pets, all right, not allowing them in the lifts, is prohibited by the management committee or the board members and things like that. So whatever is given by the constitution as a right to its citizens or its forest or its animals cannot be taken away. Nobody has the authority under the Constitution of India to take away such fundamental rights of anybody. So if they are doing it, it is violative of the fundamental rights and the fundamental duties, and therefore can be challenged in the court of law.
Now, what rights do RWAs have to impose fine for non-compliance, like the power of an MC to enforcement on recovery of dues? This is a big challenge almost every association faces.
This specifically is allowed in the Karnataka Apartment Ownership Act. I mean, if I can quote that, and then Karnataka Societies, because I'm not saying Karnataka Societies Registration Act is the right body. It is not the right body. However, the recovery of dues are allowed under the following acts, including the Karnataka Cooperative Societies Act. The board or the board members together collectively may sue the person who is not, who is due for maintenance, and they may raise a litigation against that person, which is available in the statute itself. So yes, they can exercise their rights, or they can even nominate one person on their behalf who will be suing the person. Of course, the first step would be to issue a legal notice, to have an internal discussion, bring it up in the GBM, seek a vote. And of course, there are various steps, such as, if somebody is in due for maintenance, they cannot even stand for elections and stuff like that. But after that, if XYZ is not willing to pay the maintenance, he cannot use the amenities. But can we put a stop to the amenities, basic amenities? Of course, Hyderabad has had a conflicting judgment which says that no, you can take away the water connection and electricity. However, we are not looking at it from a, from a fundamental requirement of a human being cannot be taken away. But yes, it can be taken up with the court of laws after a legal notice has been issued.
And the liability of this falls on whom? I mean, there's
The
a cost to
liability. It is a cost to the association, unfortunately. However, the fine, the cost of litigation may be recovered by the person who is to pay the maintenance dues. There is always an option from the courts to seek a cost of litigation from the erring person.
Thank you. So now, Hemant, we have seen incidences are happening, they're increasing. So what support can members get from BAF?
See, BAF as an organization has been continuously offering support to all its members by way of advisories, by way of workshops, by way of intervention with various government authorities. Recently, we have started a program called KYCS. Any applications that have been pending from our members' side with the government authorities, BAF as an organization has been meeting with the government authorities and pressing for uh, approval at a very rapid pace. So BAF as an organization, we will continue to do this. Very shortly, we will also publish an empanelment list of various vendors and uh, external support such as lawyers and CAs and safety auditors. So in this way, as a collective effort, BAF as an organization will be of great help to members.
Thanks. Now, as Mr. Murthy showed the things to do, and Mr. Dinesh also walked us through the policies which are available for an NC to take up. But there's always that, there's a cost to these, right? And not all associations are capable or may have its limitations. So, if you could, what happens if there is a non-compliance on statutory compliances? How do you deal with it? Hemant? You're on mute. You're on mute.
I'm having some kind of internet issue.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes. I can hear you.
Okay. So, one of the issues happens to be cost is a big factor when you're managing an association, and especially when you're answerable to a lot of people. So sometimes there is a slip between the cup and the lip. So, certain compliances, statutory compliances may not be taken care of, like income tax, GST, ESI, etc. So if you could take us through. Hello?
Yes, yes, sure. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes, Sanjay, we can hear you. Go on.
Yeah.
No.
Share the slide.
Yeah, Vishnu, can you share the
Sure,
slides?
I will.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next topic in this episode is the annual budgeting process. Now, as an apartment association, all of us prepare a budget, but are we doing it the right way? So on this topic, I want to make a couple of points. See, every apartment wants to have all the best practices. They want to have the best facilities. But the root cause of or the main hurdle to achieve this is funds. There could be lack of funds or there could be lack of consensus or approval. So the first issue in this is who prepares the budget. In many of the apartments, including my own apartment, the budget is prepared by the outgoing MC. And this inheritance of a already prepared budget and approved in the AGM is then handed over to the incoming MC. So what happens when there is a mismatch of expectations and mismatch of goals between the outgoing MC and the incoming MC? Is incoming MC bound by the budgeted expectations of the outgoing MC? What happens when they are not able to do certain activities, which is very, very essential? Will that expose them to significant risk? Further, I want to make a point that the budget is prepared by the MC members on their own, and here we see that they desist from taking any professional help in preparation of a budget.
Hemant, your voice is breaking. Maybe you can switch off your video if it helps.
I'll do that one second. Am I audible now?
Yeah, still there is a bit of disturbance, but yeah, go on, please.
Okay, now most apartments prepare budget. So there are two schools of thought. One is income oriented and the other one is expenditure oriented. One of the ways that most apartments prepare budget is they see what is
Sorry,
their
Hemant, we can barely hear you. Could you please drop off and try rejoining again? So yeah.
Yes, sir. I will do that. Just give me a moment.
Sure. Maybe in the meantime, Sandhya, you can pick on any other questions for Archana or Dinesh or Mahadeva.
Yeah, I think there are.
Sandhya, can I ask one question?
No, Rahul, I think we'll go to the questions.
Okay, sure.
So, Mr. Dinesh, there have been quite a few queries on people asking for the policies which you have shared. It would be nice if you could give us a list which we can probably share with our members. Just an overview.
Sure, I'll create maybe a couple of slides and share it with you, and then you can circulate with everyone.
Sandhya, are you asking another question?
Should we do the Q&A?
I think Hemant is back. Hemant, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry for that. Yeah. So I was saying that there are two schools of thought to prepare a budget. One is income oriented and one is expenditure oriented. Right or wrong, I think most of the apartments we follow the income oriented budgeting method. We see what is the collection for the year. We want to keep the maintenance rates at a particular level. We do not want to increase the maintenance rates year on year, or if we do, at a very, very nominal increase. And then we do a backward calculation as to that we want to squeeze all our expenditure within the budgeted income. I would say that is not a very right way to do a budget. Our budget has to be expenditure oriented. We have to analyze what is going to be our expenditure for the year, and then we go to what should be the maintenance that needs to be collected. I understand that there are practical difficulties to this, but as an MC member, we have to do this. We have to say that if we are to manage the association, this is what we would need. There cannot be any compromise on expenditure when it comes to critical issues. The three ways that generally what we see in apartment is the incoming MC tries to keep the same rate or increase marginally, or in very exceptional cases they try to reduce it to say that, look, we are giving you a lot of cost benefit, so we've been doing better than the earlier MCs. The data that is used by MC members to prepare the budget is predominantly the expenditure of previous year. I would say that previous year data can be only one of the data factors. It cannot be the complete data factors. After considering the previous year expenditure figures, we have to get new data. We have to get inputs from residents. We have to get inputs from external vendors, maybe our FMS vendors, and see where our facilities are lacking, how we can improve the facilities, and what is the reasonable expenditure over and above the expenditure incurred for last year that is necessary to maintain the apartment in a very safe and secure way. Another important aspect that I want to point out is that in most of the apartments, we do not factor in the legal expenses. We say that it is not required. I would suggest that legal expenses, especially a small retainer or having an advocate on roll or as a retainer, is very, very critical in the present scenario. Do not wait for some untoward incident to happen. Wherever there is some ambiguity, please take a proper legal opinion. Make some expenditure. It will help you in the long run. Now, in coming to the reason that why we have to do cost cutting is that there is lot of maintenance dues that are unpaid. I would say that instead of reducing cost, please increase the effort for collection. Please speak to the defaulters. If that doesn't work, please take appropriate legal remedy, issue them a legal notice, and please try to increase the collection. Do not let go of the unpaid dues and try to decrease the cost. Now, when it comes to exigency expenditure, there is some urgent expenditure. Please do not say that you are not incurring that expenditure because of lack of approval in the budget. Certain emergency expenditure, even without budgetary approval in the AGM, can be spent by the MC if you get it ratified in the upcoming EGM or AGM. As long as the expenditure is bona fide, I think the MC members should not wait for EGM or AGM. Please go ahead and make the expenditure as long as it is bona fide. The slide 2, please, Vishnu. Now, there is a thin line of difference between, no, the earlier slide. The thin line of difference between what the MC wants to do as cost optimization versus cost reduction. I would say that please do not resort to cost reduction. As an MC, please only look at cost optimization. To give an example, if you have 10 security guards, do not bring it down to 5. Bring it down to 5 if you also parallelly invest in CCTVs or automatic gate opening or something like that. In the long run, in case of anything that goes wrong, you will be able to justify cost optimization, but MC members, you will not be able to justify cost reduction. Slide 3, please, Vikram. Vishnu. These are some of the financial goals. We have to understand the objectives of the association, evaluate prior year's performance, aligning with the mission. Next slide, please. I've already covered this. Next. The primary source, again, is maintenance, and for apartments that have significant corpus in banks, interest income. Secondary sources would be clubhouse rentals, ownership transfer fees, etc., and also sponsorship. Next slide, please. Next. So my last, hello?
We can hear you, Hemant. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say that the mantra for MC members would be that do not compromise on a reasonable budget. There would be significant pressure from the members to maintain the apartment at a very compromised budget levels. As an MC member, incoming MC member, you have to be very, very clear that you cannot do this. If you try to run an apartment on a compromised budget, you are exposing yourself at a personal level. Please do not do it. Something goes wrong, the MC members will be held responsible. So please insist, please persuade that to run an apartment by mitigating all the risks requires a reasonable budget, and please persuade all the members to approve the same. Thank you.
Thanks, Hemant. Mr. Dinesh, I have a question for you. Hemant walked us through the cost optimization versus cost reducing costs. Now, when you're reducing costs, again, it comes with another cost per se in terms of probably safety. So that means it's an MC who has taken a decision to do this. So if there is an untoward incident, because of whatever decision was taken to cut down. Is there an implication in insurance payout?
It's a very subjective thing, right? Very difficult for me to answer it, without a full details, right? If there is a cost cutting and if the cost cutting is creating a liability in terms of an event or an incident or an accident which results into bodily injury, or there is a loss of life, or there is a disability in any form, I think the managing committee will be held accountable, and so the policy will have to be stitched in a manner to kind of provide for some carveback. But otherwise, in most cases, if it is identified that you have taken a very conscious decision and you considered all facts and still went ahead and done the cost reduction, there are insurance companies who will kind of deny such claims.
Thank you. And Archana, what about the legal responsibility? As Hemant mentioned, a lot of these are legacy issues. It comes from a decision taken a while ago by some other MC who's no longer in the picture. Now a new MC comes, it sort of continues. So liability is on the current MC, or?
See, when there is an outgoing MC, they are actually handing over. So while they're handing over, the current MC is also playing a part. So the responsibility, I mean, if somebody were to go and say that, we are, for example, this leads to a litigation. Who are the persons who are going to be sued, or who will be the correct parties? The outgoing MC and the incoming MC. Because when they're hand holding and saying, okay, now we are handing over this and this is what we have done, there was opportunity was given in order to raise any, queries, or, say that we are not okay with this and things like that. And there is always an option to call for a special general body and then take a decision if something you feel is lacking, or we need to park some funds for something in particular.
Thank you. I think we can open up for Q&A. I request anybody who has a question, please raise your hand first so that we can unmute. Yeah, Mr. Suresh, please.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. One question is on any guidance on sinking fund calculation and anything that we can refer to. If there is a policy somewhere, if there is any FAQ available, I can take a look at it. How as MCs we can estimate for it, sinking fund. Then, yeah, that's the only question. I noted down another one, but I'll pass it on.
Sure. I think, Suresh, maybe you could reach out to your cluster president or secretary, because this topic or this event is focused on the problems or the solutions around risk mitigation for management committees. I think, yeah, this is a fairly simple question. Maybe you can offline reach out to Hemant or your cluster president secretary. They should be surely able to help. If not, you can write to hemant@bf.org.in or treasurer@bf.org.in. One of them could help. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. The other question that I had posted earlier was, is there any way to find out what the builder would have declared as the water sources for an apartment complex at the time of getting the approvals?
I don't know, honestly. I don't know where can be found that. So, yeah, typically it's always bore wells, and you tend to apply for BWSB water connection or sewerage connection if you are within the city limits, right? I don't think there is any documentation for that. Yeah.
Can I make a quick response to that, Vishnu?
Sure, Vikram. Yeah.
It's out of scope again for this topic, but having said that, as a buyer, you have every right, and dare I say, the responsibility also to cross-check some of this. I understand that, I mean, the automatic natural question would be saying that, how are people giving approvals based on compliances? I'll not go there. But I think what we need to do as buyers is to assert our right to be able to make sure that what we are buying in and what is stated as part of the sales agreement is checked for, right? At a minimum, I think now I know why the water question is being asked, because we are sitting in that issue right now. But having said that, one fundamental check we have to do is to see what is the water security and water supply commitments that the builder is making as far as the supply to the building is concerned. That is something that you can actually physically check as well, saying that, what are the kinds of sources that they are providing water from. But yes, I think we have to be more assertive at the point of time when we are buying. Hopefully, I think there's more and more wisdom which is coming in buyers to be able to check for all these things.
Thanks, Vikram. Rahul, you can go next. Yeah.
Thanks, Vishnu. So, see, my question is, of course, with Archana and BAF members. So, see, in our society, we have housekeeping, security, cleaning, the services, different kind of services are coming from different vendors. Now, there is like in security, there is a group of like 15, 20 guards, and then there is a supervisor. So there are two supervisors and they are having alternative duties, I think 12 hours each. So I'm just trying to understand, considering the risk and mitigating that risk against the board of managers or the management committee. Can we incorporate like any kind of provision under the contract and then subsequently connect it with some sort of disclaimer which we can put across, at the conspicuous places on the lifts or somewhere else, showing that okay, for housekeeping from this particular vendor, this specific person or a supervisor is responsible, because these supervisor generally changes. I think guards changes very frequently, but supervisor changes generally, I think, quarterly or 6 monthly basis. So I'm just trying to understand, like, can we have some sort of mechanism wherein, because see, if there is any issue at the swimming pool, there could be a housekeeping staff or there is a cleaning staff who is responsible, or the electronic vendor which is responsible. So I'm just trying to understand, because see, as a not for profit position we are having in the board of managers or MC, we shouldn't be responsible for these things. We have a larger point of view of taking care of the entire society, instead of handling these issues wherein we are held responsible, wherein we are actually not giving those kind of services to our owners or residents.
Would BAF take up the question first?
Should
Am I
I?
clear in the question, or shall I reframe it?
Vishnu, should I quickly give some
please,
bit of
go ahead,
response?
Vikram. Yeah, please. Yeah.
No, I think Archana covered that earlier as well, right? I mean, there is specifics of it which is mentioned. And it is very clear. I think she also opined that this is not positions of profit. People are doing it as a service. But having said that, the overall sense of responsibility is one part. Culpability. The law is designed in such a manner that today, for acts of things which are fundamentally of nature of which is affecting people's lives, etc., those laws will come into effect, basically, right? And like anything in life, let's get a little philosophical here. There's a certain degree of implicit responsibility that comes with it, right, for what we do. I think that's what we are signing up for. Does that mean that we will shy away from that and not do that? It's at the end of the day, it is our own building, our own property, and we have the responsibility to maintain that, basically. Now, it's a different issue. I don't want to get into this aspect about, not many people wanting to get into committee, only few of us are getting into committee. That's the practical challenge of it, basically, right? But at the end of the day, I think we all as owners have the responsibility to own and run and maintain our own property. That's a collective responsibility. That is what, as a management committee, we are executing, right? So let me baseline that thought, right? But over and above that, I think there are practical things. Like Archana said, yes, you can today have a certain degree of caution in terms of how you structured the nature of responsibility with vendors, what they are liable for, what they are responsible for. That requires a lot more thinking and detailing, right? I think a lot of times committees don't do that also, right? They are just looking at stock contracts and then implementing. They are not reviewing the quality of work service, etc. There's no diligence which is being done. So what happens is that there is work going on, right? And when things, something breaks out, that's when it all comes to the fore. So I think what we're saying here is that, you know what, hey, one, be more, first of all, look at things like safety, etc., much more compellingly, right? What Hemant mentioned is that don't compromise on cost, keep doing your audits, etc., and all very well. Don't compromise over there. Have your contractual definitions done in such a manner that, you know, there is a fair bit of clarity which is assigned to those service providers in terms of what they're supposed to do, right? So that when in doubt, that becomes a reference. And finally, I think, like Mr. Dinesh said, you still please indemnify yourself at least to certain part of it, right? If there's litigation cost, etc. Tomorrow you should have something like a insurance which can help you to tackle that issue, at least from a cost point of view, etc. So I think that's the overall context. From our point of view, from BAF's point of view, we've been very clear saying that, you know, letting go and saying that I'll resign, we will not have committee and all, it's not the solution, because that will not solve the purpose. I think what, of course, from our point of view, what we are trying to do is also to bring more and more clarity to the fundamental issue of the apartment ownership and management laws itself. Hopefully, in the process of doing that and lobbying with the government, there will be more teeth and definitions which will come to either whatever, KOA 1972, whichever is the law which will get sort of reformed. There we need to consider these modern issues. The laws are outdated, right? We have to look at the residential units today as modern, complex units, right? So many technological systems, so many risks. I mean, when many years back in BAF, we used to think that, you know, all the wisdom and knowledge and issues have been understood and tackled. But every 2 years, we have new issues which comes up with, right? So it's never old. So having said that, I think that's the way we have to do. From BAF's point of view, I think we'll be pushing very hard on upgrading the law, right? Which can build more teeth to how some of these legal aspects are thought about. But beyond that, I think it's a lot about best practices and simple common sense of how we can protect ourselves from that. Archana, sorry, over to you.
Yeah, I think Mr. Vikram Rai has covered pretty much everything. Something which is very prevalent, which I thought should be brought to the notice, is one-sided contracts, whether it is developer, whether it is agencies, you know, they say, here's our contract, we cannot change anything. This is done by the board. That is something that you should not accept. And I think you should be very assertive and aggressive to state that, no, this is the requirement of the day. And we would like to amend certain clauses so that, you know, to a large extent, the risk is mitigated. Thank you.
So Vikram and Vishnu, just adding question, can you tell me in very briefly, like, what is the locus and responsibility of association members, and what is outside the scope? Because, you know, a lot of things are intermingling. We are not able to understand where we need to step in, where we don't have to need to step in.
That's a conversation and panel discussion session by itself, Rahul. I don't think so we'll have answers very crisply or succinctly. Yeah, not possible. But all I can say is that I think there's a great degree of balance, right? At least committees should, in our mind, should exercise some degree of conscious constraint, right? In terms of dealing with, see, residents, owners will be of all kinds. At the end of the day, committee should then balance that out and take things in a non-conflicting, as much as balanced possible. So the scope, and as far as possible, if there are documented things where there is consensus which is built, etc., done, then the conflict will be as less as possible, right? So committees should document their management MC meetings. The decisions taken should be as much as possible transparent, where there's a discussion which is happening, right? All those are good practices to build sort of trust and credibility within your residents and owners, to say that, you know, the committee is working in a objective manner.
Sure. Thanks, Vikram.
I think Mr. Dinesh had a comment.
Yeah, Dinesh had a point. Please go ahead, Mr. Dinesh.
Yeah, so I think Vikram spoke about, you know, the responsibility, right? You can't wish away that responsibility that eventually lies with the MC or, you know, members. But what you can do is, when you are having these third-party facility, you know, agencies, ensure that they at least have, you know, certain insurance policies which actually responds and not come to you as a member. For example, if you have a security guard or people who are taking care of some maintenance, if tomorrow there is a fire, and if any of these people get injured or there is a loss of life, because these are the people who will respond, right? We had events where people have lost lives trying to save people, or they've been unfortunately got trapped. So there is a liability that will come eventually to the MC members. So you cannot wish away that, but you can insist, in as a checklist, the facility manager or the company at least have basic policies in place, like Employee Compensation Insurance Act. It's an act by itself, which talks about employee-related or liabilities. You should ensure that at least the facility manager has basic, WC policy or the ECI policy in place, so that should an event happen, it is his policy which will respond and then kind of not come to the MC member directly. And we have had cases in past where security personnel and people have molested, misbehaved. There have been sexual assaults and various liabilities, which come into the MC member because one, you don't know the precedents of these people who are employed. And then the question comes in saying, what has the MC members done to kind of protect the members, right? So from all those aspects, I think these are very practical things which happen every time. People normally don't talk about it because the media doesn't cover it very extensively. But these are risks which are well-known risks, and there are products and solutions available to kind of protect yourself. The costs are still very, very low. You will be surprised. So at least some of the larger societies where it's more complex, I think these are basic hygiene things. You should understand when you're cutting costs, what are the costs that you can cut, and what are the critical costs that you should definitely pay for, and then take decisions. I think that will help in many ways.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Dinesh. So we'll Raja Gopal and Ranganath.
Vishnu, I just want to make one announcement. I see. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see many questions on how to recover dues from builders, how to recover dues from other residents, and also some questions on applicability of GST. I just want to inform all the participants here, we will be conducting a separate episode on these topics very soon. So please restrict the queries to only risk mitigation for MC members. The episodes that will be conducted on GST and also how to recover dues will be very elaborate, and that will answer all your queries. Thank you.
Thanks, Hemant. We'll go next with Rajagopal and Ranganathan. You can unmute and ask yours. If not, maybe N. Ramakrishnan, you can go next.
Good morning. My question is on the fire related question. Every apartment has this smoke detector, heat detector, there is a fire extinguisher, and all those things are connected by a loop affecting about 5 floors. So I just wanted to check with the fire safety person, are there any current easy maintenance equipments which are detection devices which can be kept in the apartment? Because I see so many things in Amazon which are battery operated, something like that. And in my apartment, the entire investment on the fire itself is about 8 to 10 crores. So the current trends in the fire detection equipments is my question.
Mahadev, any quick comments on that?
Yeah, good question. Basically, to detect the smoke detectors are the best. But with advanced technologies, there are a lot of new fire safety equipments which are in the market. But we should see the effectiveness of it. So rather than it looks very simple for the maintenance and also from the cost point of view, but the original safety critical equipments are the smoke detectors and the heat detectors, which should be installed mandatorily as per the fire safety norms. But what I can do is I can share the link wherein we will get the advanced safety critical equipments which can be used depending upon the size of the apartments and the risk associated with the apartment, so that it will help in mitigating the risk. So hope hope it is clear. But I
thank you very much, Vishnu. I have one more small question.
Sure.
There's one. Vishnu, can I ask one more question?
Sure, please go ahead.
Yeah, this is to the insurance person. See, this common area insurance and all, no, it's maybe 400, 500 crores. See, every year the asset is getting depreciated, like generator, lift, etc. But the basic thing is, how do we really, when you renew the insurance, how we take care of the premium? Really, I don't know whether we should reduce it, or if there are new additions to the hardware or something like that, should we increase it? Really, I'm worried about the amount which is going up.
I think this is a very important question because I see this problem with almost all housing societies. They take a fire insurance on a certain sum insured, which is on basis of asset prices, which were 10 years back, 5 years back, and it remains forever. And that's not a right practice. The correct practice is to take the current value of that asset. While the depreciation is an accounting process, from an insurance point of view, what you are doing is, should a loss happen in a fire event where you say a transformer has gone, your genset has gone, one floor is kind of damaged, you have to now repair it or you replace it. So when you want to repair it or replace it, you should understand that you are replacing it at current cost. But if you have taken the costs which were 5 years back, 10 years back, then very clearly from an insurance point of view, there is underinsurance. And whenever there is underinsurance, you will get proportionate deduction for the underinsurance and your claim will be paid beyond that underinsurance only. So what we normally recommend all housing societies is consider current costs. But if there are hundreds of items, it's very difficult to take a current cost for all those items. But what you can do is, if you have the purchase date of any equipment that you have as a part of your fixed asset register, what you can do is apply an inflation factor. While the laptops, computers, printers, they may not have inflation of more than 4 or 5%. But for example, the generators and the lifts and many of these equipments will have inflation. Or if you have ACs for your clubhouse and stuff like that, we'll have inflation, which is like 8-9%. So depending on number of years that the asset has been in function, and if you have an asset price which is that many years old, apply an inflation factor on an annualized basis and create something what I call as a replacement value. So always take insurance on the current value or the replacement value. So tomorrow, should a loss happens, you are paid as per the current values and not paid, for and there is a deductible due to depreciation or underinsurance. So and that is something I think everyone should do that, and not just in case of assets, but also in case of the cost of construction. Many a times in order to keep cost of construction very low, and certain areas may not be prone for earthquake, but should there be an event where there is a crack and you should have the current cost being considered. So those are things I think are hygiene things and very important to consider when you're renewing your policies.
Thank you very much, sir. Excellent answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe Puneet Rawal, you can go next.
Yeah, thanks, Vishnu. Good morning, everyone. So my question is to Advocate Madam Archana. So we have a community where we have a lot of colleges and institutes around, and apparently then we have a lot of students as tenants, bachelors, especially in our society. And I mean, when I say that 30-40% is occupied by them. So there was an incident in the past which we had to get the police involved and get it sorted out, because the earlier team, the earlier committee had passed on specific guidelines only for the student tenants. And I'm just saying student tenants, not the tenants, all the bachelor student tenants. And there are a lot of recurring issues related to, the nuisance they create in the late night parties. They get the guests from outside and then they go to the common area and all that. And the misuses of our amenities, though they are paying the maintenance on time. So the question here is that, is there a law, is there a guideline which we can implement in our bylaws, or pass some resolution in the GBM that the students, tenants can be, kept away from using the amenities, or increase the charges only for them, or, per usage charges, something like that?
Hi, Mr. Puneet. Yes and no again. To answer your question, if you're going to have a separate charge for these kind of people, you will be called to be, making a discrimination. So instead of that, by way of AGM, you can definitely add what you call as nuisance. So basically, go ahead and describe in your rules and regulations what is nuisance. The decibel levels of music going beyond a certain level is considered nuisance. And, drinking and having late night parties is not allowed. That can be, because it is going to affect the immediate neighbor, or probably all the neighbors in that particular flat. So those kind of restrictions can be put. However, you'll have to get a little more specific on if they're using a amenity and they're causing any damage of sorts. Yes, then you can fine them, and not typically say that you have to pay a higher maintenance, but you can definitely go ahead and include a fine as far as their maintenance is concerned in case there has to be a damage. But we need to specifically get into what are the amenities that they're using, and they're using not within the guidelines specified with the bylaws.
Yeah, so thank you. I think we have kind of done that already. There are, the penalties clauses there, 2,000 rupees, then 5,000 rupees. And the third instance, we inform the owner and then, try to, send them away as a part of the, it's all documented. It's nothing verbal. It's all documented over the email, or the letter is sent to the owner in writing if they're around. And so you're saying, I mean, all these are in place. We have CCTV cameras where the amenities are being misused. So we identify later if there is a complaint, or we notice that there is something done, misused it. So we are penalizing it. But then, penalizing is not the only way. It needs a replacement cost, and that sometime it is not recoverable by the means, we penalize the amount. Is there a, specific subjective, I know there's not going to be a very standardized response to this, but then any kind of a solution which could be subjective, that, something can be dealt. I know the taking them away from the amenities uses, I know it's against the law, because the user's rights are transferred to the tenant if from the owner. I'm aware of that. But then this is something is troubling and recurring to us. We are not been able to find solution other than penalizing.
Anything which is causing an inconvenience to the society at large, you can file a police complaint against these set of guys. That is allowed under the statute. And I think this is a subject that needs to be taken up at a later point in time.
Sure. Thanks, madam.
I think there is a follow-up question. This keeps getting asked in many a times. So sometimes, it so happens that the issues keep recurring, that there will be cases, counter cases, police complaints for all these things. What's your advice as a lawyer, as an advocate for such situation? Because maybe a case where tenants are creating a nuisance, you go and file a complaint, or tenant just want to take a revenge, simply file a false complaint against management committee, and the cycle repeats. And once the bad blood starts, this cases and counter cases, or even the court cases also keep going on. So what do you think is your advice for such situations from evolving in the societies? I know we should say mediate or friendly and all that. Yeah.
No, that I guess it is possible when there are rational people involved, and sometimes it is not possible. And in such situations, I guess with great power comes great responsibility, and this is not something you can wish away or you can be absolved of. So if there is a case, and please don't make a mistake, if somebody is summoned, please do not make the mistake of saying, I don't care and I'll sit at home and not bother about what the consequences are. Please ensure there is appropriate legal representation if there is a case, if there is a counterclaim. And once the courts are very well aware of what is going on in the society, and they will give you the justice that you require. So even if it is recurring, you can also bring that up to the court and then state that, this is a recurring phenomena and we need relief from this. The courts will give you the relief. It may take some time, but there's definitely remedies available.
If I may
Madam,
add,
just last follow-up question on the same thing. Thank you, Vishnu, for asking that follow-up question, getting more clarity. So there is no way that as an association, we can say that the student tenants are not allowed to use amenities, even if we put it in the bylaw and get it through GBM?
No, it is not allowed. But see, I'll give you an example. In Mumbai, there are several associations that do this. But then again, you should be up and ready for any litigation that follows and says there is a discrimination in this association. That's all. Otherwise, really, nobody can say, no, you cannot put it. There are people, there are associations across the country who are doing this. However, they are taken, there are litigations that are pending as far as this is concerned. And yes, the court will look at it as discrimination.
Sure.
Got it. Thank you.
Just want to add on,
just
Vishnu, I just want to add on to Mr. Rawal's question. Mr. Rawal, this is a problem faced by almost all the apartments, including our apartment, where there used to be a lot of complaints and counter complaints. So we have incorporated a mediation policy. As of now, it's informal, but as BAF as an organization, we are going to come up with a proper framework for mediation policy. And we are very sure that with mediation, you can solve most of these problems, including problems of bachelors. And in our apartment, the problems from bachelors has come down by 90%, and there has been no police complaint filed in the last 2 years. There used to be a police complaint filed every month, but with mediation, we have somebody who is not an MC member, who are seniors and well respected within the apartment. We kind of request them to go and speak to these bachelors, and most of the times they respond favorably. If MC goes and says that, look boss, I'm going to cut your electricity supply, I'm going to not let you use swimming pool, sometimes that results in bad blood. So please wait for the mediation framework. I'm very sure that our mediation framework will solve most of the problems faced in your apartment also. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hemant. Maybe I'll connect separately to get that informal document and try and see if we can do something on an immediate basis. Thank you.
Yes.
They're already there. I think camp mediation information is already available on the website. So I think in the last two questions, in the interest of time, we are at 11:49. So Vijay Ballapuram, maybe you can go next. You ping me because you could raise your hand.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. I wanted to know if recording of a conversation with any resident is allowed, either video or audio, or even our GBM proceedings, because sometimes there are unruly residents who can get physically threatening as well or abusive. So can we record it? Is it allowed under law to protect ourselves?
Yes, electronic evidence is admissible in law and you can record. And the only thing is, if you are recording somebody without their knowledge, that is something that comes under the radar and question. Otherwise, yes, you're allowed to record.
So we'll have to inform them that we are recording.
No, the moment there is a physical incident, involving any assault or any force between two people, there is an automatic, if you start recording, the person is aware that they go ahead and say, yeah, please go ahead and record. I know you're recording. That's good enough.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Archana. There is one question which came, I think, YouTube or somewhere else. If we haven't taken any insurance in the last 11 years, can we take insurance now? And how is the cost calculated? Not sure what the context is or who's the person who posted that, but maybe Mr. Dinesh, you want to take that or yeah. I think it may be related to building insurance, I'm guessing. We haven't taken any insurance in the last 11 years. How is the cost calculated?
If you've not taken insurance in 11 years, better take it now because you are liable under model bylaws. In fact, some members can sue you for negligence. And this is a typical thing which comes up, in some cases. People ignore the statutory requirement. It's a statutory requirement. How can you ignore something as critical as that? Till now, if you're not taken, fair enough, take it today. But of course, you will need to kind of give evidence in terms of, in recent times, if there are claims, events related to any fire. So those are the details that the insurance company will ask. And if you can substantiate, give evidence, then you can have a policy in place. Never late.
Better late than never.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks, Dinesh. Maybe one last question. Maybe Rahul, you had raised your hand.
Thanks, Vishnu. So see, we have been very categorically told that we'll take some action against MC and we'll go for the cancellation of the OC that happened at the GBM. So wherein we made a guideline that pets are allowed in all the common areas. So there are certain set of residents, that both are there pro pets and against the pets, and they're very offensive, saying that like some segregated area, say some common area where we can playing football or volleyball or basketball, that is a enclosure as well. So they are saying that you cannot allow pets over there. So we put it as per the AWBI guidelines and as per the Nagaraj versus Union of India. It's a 2014 Supreme Court judgment. I'm sure Archana is aware about that. So considering these pro pet owners, they have identified everything and then they created these guidelines as per pet guidelines as per AWBI. Now the other set of people, how to cater the need of everybody with respect to usage of common area even by the pet owners or pets.
You can certainly have restrictions in a place where people are playing, because when there is play, running and things like that involved, pets do get agitated. So you can give that example and then state that we don't want to create unnecessary aggression or any irritation to the pet, and therefore we do not allow a area where there are games or people are playing and that is exclusively used for sports. Otherwise, cricket fields and Kantirava stadiums would have been filled with dogs today.
No,
So that
so
is not the
Archana,
situation.
I got it. So I just change
Yeah.
the situation. So, see, when they are empty in morning times, when these
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Even when they are empty, there are certain places where you do not allow. That is fair enough to say that, because there are chances of defecation by the, pet or the animal.
Exactly.
So we do not allow certain areas, which is your basketball area, your tennis area. That's absolutely fair. The rest of the common area is available. So
Exactly.
and another thing is, would you take up the responsibility of cleaning up after the pet? If you're able to do that.
Yeah, so you're absolutely correct. All the guidelines are in place where these people for the urine and for the defecation, they keep it in the polythene and they do clean the place as it was earlier. So fortunately, unfortunately, my society is divided into two phases. One phase has categorically written over there, pets are not allowed. Other phase has not written it, so pets are using that places, and that is the bone of contention for the people who are not pet owners, that why it is not written here and why it is written over there, and it has been done by the builder. So but my people are saying that you cannot restrict any pet going in the common areas. So see, everybody can read and everybody has access to these AWBI guidelines and the judgments and all. So I'm not able to understand what is the correct legal position.
Can we take this offline? I mean, if BAF
Definitely.
I think in the interest of time, we can take it as a separate consultation, Rahul. Yeah, thanks, Archana. So maybe, sorry, I think the last two questions, maybe 11:54, I'll quickly rush through. So many owners are renting out flats to bachelors and they've started doing co-living, etc. And some cases where people also say people put on Airbnb, etc. So what is the legality of those? That's one question. Then we'll go to Sunil as the last question and we wrap it up. Yeah, Archana, you want to take that?
Sorry, Vishnu, could you kindly repeat that question?
Sometimes as an owner, I rent it out to person A, and then that person A gets his girlfriend who is not in the rental agreement and they start living, right? So in the same flat. And how do we handle such co-living scenarios? And a sub question of that is, in some cases, owners also probably they put it out on Airbnb as a one room for rent or things like that, right? So
no,
of
yes. So Airbnb cannot, or any such co-living atmosphere cannot be entertained unless it's a part of the rent agreement. And yes, clear guidelines have to be given by the association also, because people walking in and walking out is a clear threat because you don't know who's coming in and who's going out, and it's humanly not possible to keep a check on who is coming in and who is going out. Let there be a declaration by the tenant to the owner if subsequently there is a living in relationship happening. There has to be a declaration that now we are two people, and that declaration has to be submitted to the association. We are not we are not discriminating against anybody. All we are saying is give us information, give us the Aadhaar card and the copies of the people staying here as tenants. That's all. That is not something which is against the law. However, Airbnb is a clear cut. Unless the entire section of the apartment is running for a commercial Airbnb, then it's a different issue. Otherwise, residential can take a unanimous vote and say, no, we are not allowing this kind of a setup.
Sure. Thanks, Archana. Maybe Sunil, you can ask your last question. Or Dinesh, you want to add something? Or
Yeah, I think in case of a tenant, it's important to get a police verification in. So if anybody who is a permanent is staying there, so at least important that at least you insist on police verification and KYC requirement. I think these are basic compliances, and there's nothing illegal about enforcing that. In fact, it should be enforced to ensure that no illegal activities are happening. And tomorrow, the MC members can be held for any action of these unauthorized tenants and members.
sure, thanks. Sunil Salimat, you can go. Last question for the day.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, one question on that. I'm not sure I joined late and then was already discussed. So this is more of the recent incidents and resulting into the criminal cases and all. So what's the thought process on is there a need for legally the associations appointing a lawyer versus it's similar to like financial auditors and other things, right? What's the thought process around this? Can somebody talk to it?
I think Hemant touched upon that during the budget planning. It's always wise to have an advocate, a retainer, or just like how you have an auditor, always have a relationship with an advocate in a sense. You have them as a retainer, or per advice basis you're reaching out to them, so that there is certain relationship built, so that when in doubt, you can always take a legal advice that can help you safeguard you in future. Is what Hemant also presented in his budget planning exercise as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think what would be the request is I think we did reach out to in consultation to just to safeguard our thought process, and then probably we reached out to a criminal lawyer, and then considering their fees are very high, so appointing them on a regular basis. So probably a BAF association together, probably if we can appoint, and then which can get some regional the rate, probably that would be helpful if we can pass it through the BAF, and then which can be beneficial for all the associations.
So Hemant.
Mr. Sunil, we are in the process of having an empaneled set of lawyers, CAs, and other vendors such as fire safety auditors, electrical safety auditors. We will go ahead with that very soon, and you can take advantage. And we are very sure that you will have the rates for BAF members will be significantly less than what they would otherwise charge. So in that way, we can help the members.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much, man.
Thanks, Hemant. So I think before I wrap up, I just want to share two important things. So one thing is, if you visit BAF portal, you can actually see how BAF Governing Council is structured, how the teams are structured, and there are ways how you can reach out to the teams responsible for help. For instance, you have the phone number, the email IDs of whom to reach out. For example, if anything related to some of these topics, whom you can reach out is via solutions@baf.org.in, the team that's doing this program, Parihara. If you want to know about programs, you can get this, and then growth related aspect, there is a team, right? So BF website and app provides you a lot of resources and contacts and information. So I would highly recommend everybody to go through that. And as an additional point, I think Hemant touched upon it, just to reiterate that BF has run some KYCS campaign, and still it's always open. KYCS, if you just search in your WhatsApp groups, you will find that. So know your compliance status, right? So that compliance status can be to do with electrical inspection, it can be to do with lift license renewal, it can be with respect to KSPCB CFO, So you can fill that, and the corresponding team is tracking and monitoring and helping the members that are in need. For instance, right now, they've taken up on priority the issues related to KSPCB, CFO, consent for operation request, etc. Right? So that's something that's ongoing. I would strongly recommend guys to engage well and connect with your cluster president, cluster secretaries, and yeah. I mean, those are different channels and hierarchy and all those things you can find in BF portal, because yeah, so the governing council people are extremely loaded, but there is a mechanism or a structure in which you can reach out. So as we are coming to a closure, before I hand over to Vikram, few words of thanks from me. Thanks a lot to all our panel speakers, Mrs. Archana KS, Advocate, and Mr. Dinesh Shenvi, Vice President from Prudent Insurance Advisors, and our in-house experts, Mr. Mahadeva Murthy, BAF Executive Council Member, and Kengeri Pina Cluster President, and Hemant, right? And last but not least, the architect of this program is Sandhya Bhatt, patiently coordinated with everyone and curated the program, questions, been a moderator and done a lot of work. Thanks a lot to each and every one of you, and for making this program a grand success. And with such series taking forward, like as Hemant mentioned, we want to do more and more such episodes of this series, taking one specific topic, and so that it can give the right knowledge to all our members, not just BF members, anybody can leverage this knowledge. Yeah. So any remarks from your side, Vikram?
Yeah, I think thanks. I initially thought that I'll be on this session for about 15-20 minutes and then drop off. But then I ended up, I think, being participating for 2 hours because the session was really, really good, right? I think the inputs that came in, and let me take a moment to I think let me take a moment to thank again. I think Vishnu's done, Mr. Dinesh, Archana, especially, of course, Hemant, Mahadev, and Sandhya. They are internal crusaders, but I think brought in a lot of obviously their professional expertise into this discussion. So this was a very, very impactful discussions. Many important topics touched upon. So once again, thank you all. This was the first edition of this series, Parihara. Hemant, Satish, Arun, and all the solutions team, Valli is on this call, etc. They've kickstarted something like this, I think, which will be very, very useful. I think the idea is also to do this regularly on a periodic basis, on a calendarized basis, where there can be real discussions on solutioning towards tricky issues, as I call, right? We live in a day and age when not everything can be answered by law. Not everything is protected for. We cannot depend on being that. I think what we can depend upon is our ability to draw from collective wisdom and best practices and support each other and create this whole path of middle path, right? Which we can where we can recognize problems and recognize solutions as well, right? In a most optimum manner. That would be the intent of BAF Parihara. It has been called exclusively for that. Parihara, as many of you might know, means solution in Kannada, right? How can we solve problems together which are affecting us, which are common to us? Of course, with the inputs of experts and well-wishers, right? There are so many people who always reach out to us and say that, what, can we spread this knowledge? Can we give this input to members? And of course, as BAF, we are always constantly touching and connecting with departments, bureaucrats, various influencers, ministries, etc., to be also able to change the boundary on policy matters, right? Today, if it doesn't exist, certain policies, we will definitely try to see if we can negotiate with the government to bring in policies and guidance which can help, right? So that will be the path. But most importantly, I think it is our request and expectation is for the communities, for the committee members, especially. I mean, since Parihara touches committee members play a very important role, right? In taking over that responsibility for your community and voluntarily, like we discussed, contributing towards running the affairs of the community. This is like the old school family system, right? Joint family, somebody has to take the responsibility and they do that. That's the role which people are performing. It comes with a lot of pressures, frustrations, I'm sure, with lots of negative distractions. But at the same time, I think there's a great degree of empowered service that you're doing, which needs to be acknowledged, right? Enjoyed to a certain extent. So as much as possible from BAF's point of view, I think we'll be the platform which will support and guide. So please do spread the word on these knowledge. I mean, there's tons of knowledge, right? There has to be engaged involvement coming from the members to use that and apply that effectively in your own respective sense. So yeah, thank you all. It was a great point to our session. So look forward to
Ajay Mehrotra and Umamani, they were doing a lot of background work as well. So thanks a lot to them as well. And
yeah, absolutely right. I mean, there's a whole team of people. Please do recognize the fact that we may not be always responsive. We also do. I mean, many of the governing council members play a double role of also committee members and do things in their lives. So, but as much as possible, I think try to bring knowledge. So yeah, once again, thank you to all the speakers. Thank you to everybody who participated and asked very relevant questions. And like Vishnu said, this is recorded. This is up on YouTube. So hopefully we can share it with all the members also and wider dissemination for people who didn't join in. I think the discussions in this was very, very useful. Vishnu, request if it can go to all members.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a